Exploring the parallels and differences between Calvinist predestination and the law of karma by Dave Marsland of Cardiff Theosophical Society. The concept of predestination has fascinated theologians and philosophers alike throughout history. There is the intriguing question of whether Calvinist predestination, a central tenet of Reformed Protestantism, has any parallels with the law of karma, a fundamental principle in Blavatskyan Theosophy and many Eastern spiritual traditions. To comprehend the essence of Calvinist predestination, we must delve into the theological teachings of John Calvin, 1509 to 1564, a prominent figure in the Protestant Reformation. The life of John Calvin serves as a crucial starting point in understanding the concept of Calvinist predestination and its potential connection to the law of karma. Born in Noyon, France, Calvin became one of the most prominent figures of the Protestant Reformation. His theological teachings emphasized the sovereignty of God and the doctrine of predestination, which asserts that God had predetermined the eternal fate of every individual. Calvin's own life exemplified his belief in this doctrine, as he dedicated himself to spreading his religious ideas and establishing a disciplined and righteous society in Geneva. By examining Calvin's life and teachings, we can gain insights into the foundations of Calvinist predestination and explore possible parallels with the law of karma. According to Calvin, God has preordained the eternal destiny of every individual, choosing some for salvation and others for damnation, independent of any merit-based considerations or personal actions. This notion of divine sovereignty and election forms the core of Calvinist predestination. The concept of reincarnation is not within the Calvinist remit. While Calvin did not explicitly address the idea of reincarnation in his writings, it can be inferred that he did not accept its possibility. The notion of predestination implies a single life and a predetermined outcome, which contradicts the cyclic nature of reincarnation. Calvin's emphasis on divine sovereignty and the eternal nature of salvation suggests that he did not entertain the idea of multiple lives or the transmigration of souls. Calvin would probably contend that the law of karma places too much emphasis on human agency and undermines the absolute sovereignty of God in determining one's salvation or damnation. In contrast, the idea of one life to face a judgment or decree of God is totally rejected by Theosophy and the Eastern religious traditions. The law of karma operates in the context of Eastern spiritual traditions such as Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism. Karma, derived from Sanskrit and meaning action, refers to the principle that every action, thought or intention has consequences that subsequently affect one's future. In this belief system, positive actions yield positive consequences, paving the way for favourable future circumstances, while negative actions lead to negative consequences and potentially unfavourable outcomes. Unlike Calvinist predestination, the law of karma operates through multiple physical incarnations. While Calvinist predestination and the law of karma ostensibly differ in their theological underpinnings, some intriguing parallels exist between the two. Firstly, both systems postulate that there is a divine force at play. There is a belief in an ultimate authority. Both Calvinism and the law of karma recognize the existence of an ultimate authority that governs the destinies of individuals. In Calvinism, this authority is God, while in the law of karma, Blavatskyan Theosophy postulates celestial beings who are the recorders of karmic actions, hence often called the lords of karma. To some Eastern traditions, karma is the impersonal cosmic system of cause and effect relationship between actions and consequences. Secondly, there is an absence of control over one's fate. In both doctrines, adherents acknowledge a lack of personal control over their ultimate destiny. In Calvinism, God's sovereignty overrides human effort, while the law of karma suggests that one's actions in previous lives and accumulated karmic debt shape future outcomes, which can mean misfortune or unaccountable failures of effort in a current life. To the individual, both scenarios may represent an absence of control over one's fate. Thirdly, despite the concept of Calvinist predestination and the law of karma appearing to limit human agency, both doctrines emphasize the importance of individual responsibility. In Calvinism, believers are urged to live a righteous life, responding faithfully to God's calling. Similarly, the law of karma maintains that individuals are responsible for their actions, and the consequences they face are a result of their own deeds. Fourthly, while Calvinism and the law of karma differ in their interpretations of redemption and liberation, both acknowledge the possibility of transcendence and salvation. Calvinist theology asserts that salvation is granted through God's grace, while adherents of the law of karma strive for liberation from the cycle of rebirth by transcending desire and attachment. Despite the inherent contrasts, both concepts hold the promise of attaining a higher state of being. Fifthly, Calvinist predestination and the law of karma suggest individualized destinies. In Calvinism, God's sovereignty determines the ultimate outcomes for each individual, while the law of karma maintains that one's karma shapes their future lives. Both concepts reflect a belief in the uniqueness of each person's journey, even if the determining factors differ. Despite these similarities, significant differences between Calvinist predestination and the law of karma challenge any direct correlation. A. Within Calvinism, the doctrine of predestination emphasizes the supreme authority and sovereignty of God's will. The destiny of individuals is determined solely by God, without any regard for their personal choices or actions. Conversely, the law of karma highlights the significance of personal responsibility and individual agency. It suggests that an individual's actions, intentions and moral choices shape their future outcomes. B. Calvinist predestination challenges the notion of human free will. It asserts that God's omnipotence and foreknowledge render human choices and actions ultimately predetermined. In contrast, the law of karma accommodates the belief in free will, suggesting that individuals have the capacity to make choices and shape their moral and ethical paths. C. Temporal perspective. Calvinist predestination has a timeless perspective focusing on God's eternal decree and the predestination of souls before the creation. Conversely, the law of karma operates within the boundaries of time and encompasses the concept of reincarnation and multiple lives. D. Calvinism places reliance on faith and divine grace as the means to achieve salvation. It emphasizes the belief that only through divine grace can individuals be saved from the consequences of their sinful nature. The law of karma, in contrast, promotes the idea of spiritual progress through ethical living and the cultivation of positive karma, leading to eventual liberation from the cycle of death and rebirth. In Blavatskyn Theosophy, the relationship between the life lived and the experience of the after-death state, or karma loka, is more related to assimilation of past behaviour than to karma, and has little in common with the concepts of salvation or damnation as postulated by Calvin. Although the lower levels of the astral plane can be considered similar to experience of hell, there is no eternal damnation. Milton's statement in Paradise Lost, "Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven," is a fitting description of the situation of individuals trapped on the lowest levels of the astral plane due to the lives they have lived, but their situation is not eternal. Calvinist predestination and the law of karma invite contemplation on the reconciliation of seemingly contradictory events. In Calvinism, reconciling God's sovereignty with human free will has been a subject of theological debate. Similarly, understanding the relationship between individual choice and the workings of karma presents its own intellectual challenge. Both doctrines require individuals to wrestle with profound questions, fostering personal growth and intellectual exploration. In conclusion, while Calvinist predestination and the law of karma share certain overarching themes, their fundamental differences far outweigh any potential correlations. Both systems grapple with the mysteries of human destiny and the implications of our actions, but offer distinct perspectives on divine authority, personal agency, and the temporal framework in which they operate. By exploring these parallels and divergences, we gain a deeper understanding of the theological and philosophical intricacies surrounding these profound concepts, enriching our knowledge of human beliefs and the complexities of religious thought.